Welcome to Getting to Know Google SecOps. I'm John Stoner, and today we're going to introduce the string function of length that can be used as you build searches and rules in Google SecOps. String length can be calculated with the use of the function strings.length. This function will count the number of characters in a string field and output an integer value. As you can see, the syntax is very straightforward. Just provide a field or variable that needs to be measured. This function can be used in a search or rule to narrow the data set by setting it in the filtering statement of a search or in the events section of a rule, or it can be used in the outcome section to calculate a statistical function based on the integer output. Common use cases that the length function is applied to include measuring command lines, user agent strings, and DNS queries for anomalous values based on their string length. Let's take a look at a few examples. We'll start by taking a look at network HTTP events and hypothesize that user agent strings that are excessively short or excessively long are of interest to us. To narrow our results a bit, we've removed any events that don't have a user agent string, as well as the pesky IPv6 address of : 1. To get started, I want to review some broader statistical measures, so we are grouping all data for the past week together, calculating the length of the user agent strings, and then using statistical functions of count, max, min, average, medium, and standard deviation to generate values. In our results, we can see that we have over 200,000 events with a max length of 269 and a min length of 3. Additionally, we can see that the average length is 20 and the median is 14. Let's refine our search and just look for the events that have a user agent length of 5 or less, since we know the minimum is 3. While we're at it, let's group the results by IP address pairs. When we run our search, we can see a few IP addresses, each with the same 2 user agents. The first is TNAS, which is associated with a vulnerability scan for the Terramaster NAS, and the other is RPC, which upon further analysis appears to also be part of the same vulnerability scan. Because we can also use strings.length in rules, let's take a look at what that might look like. Let's build a rule that looks for excessively long command lines. The thought here is that perhaps abnormally long command lines may be anomalous in the environment. With any rule, some tuning will be required, so while we are focusing on process launch events, we filtered out a few specific executables and folders to get a decent signal-to-noise ratio. We're grouping process launches by the host in a 30-minute window, and in the outcome section, we're calculating an event count and generating statistical values of max, average, and standard deviation based on the length of the command line. With those values, we can then also calculate the outlier value that is 5 standard deviations away from the average. And because we want to return just the longest command line in the window, we're going to use the window.last function to get us this value. More on this function will be forthcoming. Finally, we're going to compare the longest command length to the 5x outlier value. And if the command line length in the time window is greater, we're going to generate a detection. When we test our rule, we get a few detections, and when we review them, we can see that perhaps some additional tuning may be required, but we can also see that at least one of these detections contains a number of reconnaissance commands under a single process launch. This isn't something that we might expect to see from an internal user, so there may be some additional investigation required of this system. The strings.length function provides us the ability to generate an integer value based on the number of characters in a string and then apply additional criteria to this value. The syntax is very straightforward. Just provide the function along with the field or variable that we need to calculate, and then depending where the function is used, it may require an aggregation function like max or min to be prepended to it along with the outcome variable, or it could be used as a threshold value in the condition section of a rule. This function can be used in the filtering statement of a search, in the events section of a rule, as well as in the outcome section. It just depends if this value is designed to filter out data or is part of a computation. If you want to learn more about Google SecOps, check out my blog series called New to Google SecOps for more handy tips. We have a number of community YARA-L detections at our GitHub site and are continually adding more. And don't forget to engage the security community at secopscommunity.com.